welcome back to Dive Vibe. I thought I'd try something a little bit different today, so bear with me. In May 2020, I did a live Q&A centered around rebreathers and technical diving in Hawaii. I thoroughly enjoyed it and I really want to do more, so I thought I'd upload it and see what everybody thinks. If you like it and you want me to do more live streams, just let me know in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it when it happens. All right, well, present me is going to shut up so past me can talk. Thanks for diving with me today, and I'll see you in the water.
Ooh, one more thing. I've got this old surfboard that I found floating in the middle of the ocean, and I've been sticking my diving stickers all over it. It's going to be part of the Dive Vibe set for some time, so if you've got a sticker you'd like to see on it, hit me up in the comments, and I'll get you an address to send it to. I'm going to start taking questions. We're going to kind of wait for people to get in here for another 5, maybe 10 minutes. We'll see. But start sending me questions, and in a few minutes we'll start answering. And then if nobody answers questions, I'll figure something else out. Chrissy, hello. Zeke, Ride Dive Movies. I have a feeling that Ride Dive Movies might be Nodder. Hello, Nodder. If anybody else is just lurking in there, say something in chat so I can see who all's here and greet you properly. Let's see. That's funny. Hi, Chrissy. Hey, Tommy. How's it going? Long time no see. I hope you are healthy. I remember you would, you're probably on the front lines, aren't you? What's poppin'? All right, well, I won't be super boring. Let's see. Started out with this. Oh, I wonder if you guys can even hear that. Can you? I hope so. This video is amazing. Let me know if... Hopefully you guys could hear that. Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, let's see. I don't see any questions yet. That's kind of the thing here. I'm going to play videos until I get some questions. And then if not, then I'll just start talking, which is fine either way. So, let's do some cave diving. This is Jenny Springs in High Springs, Florida. Probably can't see much of it. And yes, Rich, we can figure out a way to get you a Kiss Sidewinder in orange. There's a way to do that for sure. Excellent. Okay. Lorianne, looks like you're here for Sidemount info.
You're not interested in a lot of cave diving, but curious as to whether or not Sidemount is useful for open water. Let's see. Neil, that's not a real question. You're not real. Everybody knows that's you. Cool. So Sidemount is actually really cool for open water. A lot of people tend to think that it's just for cave diving, and it primarily started out that way. Actually, a long, long time ago, the French cavers were going through sumps, and they would attach tanks to their hips, basically, but it wasn't as refined of a setup as we're using now, whereas we use like we clip the tank onto our waist and then use a bungee to retain the valve. This is a Sidemount BCD with a rebreather attached to it, by the way. But the cool thing about Sidemount is that you don't necessarily have to use it just for caves. It's really comfortable in open water. First of all, a lot of people will tell you right off the bat that as soon as you put on a Sidemount BCD and get in the water, it just puts you in this super flat horizontal trim, making things super easy for you. Other people, it can be kind of cumbersome rocking 2 tanks on a boat when everybody else is just using a single tank. Now, I've seen people do it. I don't personally recommend using double tanks on a normal recreational dive charter because you always end up using a little bit more or a little bit less on the first or second dive. So one of the dives gets shortened. It's when that happens, it can be inconvenient for your guide if that you have less air or more air on that dive than everybody else. So it kind of wrecks things. It's also more cumbersome to get in the water. I like to do a single tank side mount if I'm diving with other single tank divers on the boat. And all you have to do to make that happen, you might think, oh, I'm going to roll, right? And that would be the case if you didn't do a little trim weighting. But right here, I've got this weight plate. These are actually really cool. You don't have to use this. You can use anything. You can actually weave the weight into the harness if you plan to do a lot of single tank diving. And people have success with that. But with these guys, you just thread a weight through in a second. You've got a... let's see, you guys can see that. Cool. So these weight plates allow you to quickly put a weight wherever you want on your webbing. And if you throw a 2-pound weight right here to kind of counterbalance the first stage and tank, they're going to be over here throwing you out of trim. It'll keep you pretty perfect, actually. I find it extremely comfortable the few times that I've done it. I actually have these up here to do a little trim weighting for the Sidewinder. It has a bit of a weird thing going on. Having a first stage down here, you have to have a little bit of weight right here to counteract it. Let's see. Let's see. Tommy, what would I recommend to a recreational diver who is thinking about tech diving? Well, first of all, come to a thing like this. That's great. And kind of figure out if what you're looking for is deeper. Like, are you trying to go deeper, or are you trying to stay longer? Or are you trying to get closer to fish? What are you looking for? So if you're looking for deeper diving, a great place to start. I started with doubles, with back mount doubles, like kind of the typical progression. I started with back mount doubles, moved on to side mount eventually, and I still will use back mount doubles for quickie Florida cave dives and stuff like that, just because it's so much easier to just have everything set and ready to go in the back of the truck, throw it on. It's just a little bit faster. Side mount I like for other certain instances, but I'm kind of leaning more towards using side mount open water because it doesn't take that much longer to get into your gear, and it's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more stable. You can basically hang motionless and stay in trim. You don't have to kick or skull as much as you do to stay in perfect trim or concentrate on weighting so much. It also feels a little more free because you can actually move your back. Your spine isn't stuck against a rigid back plate. One of the best things about side mount is traveling. So finding a set of doubles in a place that doesn't normally do a whole lot of technical diving, like Hawaii, for instance, it's kind of difficult to rent a pair of doubles here, especially on the Big Island. There's a guy that rents them out of his garage, but that's about it. So side mount is nice because you can just show up anywhere and grab any 2 tanks and side mount all day long. So I would recommend, hitting up a rebreather try dive or trying out rebreathers. I really like advising people to go straight for rebreathers. Obviously, not everybody wants to make that plunge right off the bat. So if you want to try something out that doesn't cost you, 10 grand including training, they're cheaper than that. They're not that bad. But if you want to do something that doesn't cost you as much, you could try out Sidemount or even back mount doubles. Do like a Patty Tech 40 course or whatever agency, as long as you've got a good instructor. That's the important part. Let's see what else we got. Should or why would a wreck diver invest in a rebreather? Haha. Good question, Rich. Okay, why would you invest in a rebreather for recreational diving? Okay, so first of all, I'm sure we've all been, well, maybe not all of you, because some of you may have extremely good air consumption. So first of all, you don't have to worry about your air consumption at all. It's an extremely freeing feeling. You get down there and it's like we can go wherever we want. Doesn't matter. The amount of time I can stay underwater is the same. The next best thing is your no decompression limit. So I could pull up the multi-deco and show you guys all that stuff, but I'm not going to right now just because it's a pain. But if you go and you do the calculations yourself and you look at with the PO2s you're diving on a rebreather, let's say I'm going on air on a dive at 60 feet, very recreational dive. I can stay down at 60 feet for about 55 minutes according to the tables. If you are doing that on a rebreather and you have a PO2 of around 1.2 or whatever you want, you're going to be looking at well over 3 hours of no decompression limit. A long, long time you can stay down without needing to decompress. And then you kind of get a diminishing return the deeper you go, but you still always get more time than open circuit. You hit an equivalency with Nitrox 32 at about 111 feet or so, because then it's at a 1.4, maybe a little bit shallower actually. It's at a 1.4, so Nitrox meets you there, but then with Nitrox you can't go deeper than that. You're stuck at that maximum operating depth, but you are most efficient there. With the rebreather, it's constantly mixing gas on your back, so it's changing your PO2, which you guys that are Nitrox certified will remember that your PO2 has to do with your maximum operating depth a great deal. So we dive to a 1.4, all that good stuff. And this thing is constantly changing the PO2 depending on the depth to give you a 1.2 or whatever you're running it at. This one's a mechanical CCR. So it's passively adding gas and I'm just making adjustments. Let's see. Sarah, do we stock those weight plates at JDL? No, but I'm working on it. They are freaking cool. If you need some, I think Nate might still have some he's selling. He had a bunch. Let's see. How many days are in a rebreather course? Well, it depends on what course you're taking. I recommend the Tech 40 CCR course for any diver that's beginning, especially if you're going to be interested in technical diving. There is a rebreather and advanced rebreather route that you can take, but I recommend the Tech 40 course because they both take the same amount of time. If you take rebreather and advanced rebreather, which will get you down to 130 feet if you're comfortable with that, you could do, in the exact same amount of time, you could do Tech 40 and be certified down to 130 feet with 10 minutes of deco and know substantially more about your unit. Oh, go full screen. Thanks, Carlos. All right. Let's see. What kind of setup do I have behind me? Yeah, that's a great question. So this is the KISS Sidewinder attached to Hollis's brand new Sidemount BCD, the Katana 2. So right now in the diving world, I was kind of expecting to get a few people that were just interested in seeing and hearing about this BC and this rebreather. This is like the most popular rebreather on the market right now. KISS can't even keep up with the manufacturing. They're having to figure out ways to streamline their process, I think, because I'm pretty sure they're selling more rebreathers than they ever have. I could be wrong, but that's what it seems like to me. So we've got the KISS Sidewinder, which is basically this loop right here, counter lung on the other side that you can't see. manual addition valves, all that good stuff, attached to the Hollis Katana 2. This BCD, the first batch shipped out right before we started hearing about coronavirus, and then it's been super hard to get, and they just shipped out the new ones kind of as Jax was closed for COVID-19. We started getting these in again. So we got 3 originally. I think we've got 3 more now. So if anybody wants one of these, I think we do have some in stock. And I believe there are Hollis kits too with the regulators. So that's a nice way to go. Good way. It will benefit you in the future because the regs are super versatile and the BCD is really good. Can you rent a rebreather? Yes, you can. We have some Mark 6s, and potentially in the future we may have Poseidon 7s in rental that you can try out. And we do have one KISS Sidewinder that you can rent for the course, which is pretty cool. Ron's very excited about his Katana 2. Yeah, that's your Katana 2 is the one I'm talking about, Ron. So go pick it up. Otherwise, I'm gonna sell it. Just kidding. Let's see. What else we got here? Oh, Lorianne, I'm not sure if I answered your question earlier about single tank side mount, but yes, you can definitely do single tank side mount. It doesn't balance weird as long as you have like a 2-pound weight on the other side, or wherever you find that it sits best for you. Now, there are sort of restrictions on what tanks you use, but the good thing is it's aluminum 80s are the number one thing that you get everywhere, and those work just fine. If you try to do that with a steel 85, yeah, you're gonna rink the whole time. But yeah, it should be fine with an aluminum 80. I've done it many times. Really comfortable. Let's see here. The Katana side mount rigs, then adapted for rebreather. Meant for side mount, but work for both. Yes. So, cool thing. Ed Sorensen, who is a cave instructor in Mariana, Florida, worked super closely with KISS about their Sidewinder rebreather. He helped him out. Helped him figure out the design a little bit on how to mount these canisters. And he also did the same thing. I believe him and Nick Hollis were talking about the design of the Katana 2. And I'm pretty sure it was Ed's idea to go ahead and make this the only BCD on the market that is engineered to work with the KISS Sidewinder. Now, you can use the KISS Sidewinder with just about any side mount BCD. They actually have some adapters made for some of the more popular ones, which makes it nice and easy. But this one, you need no adapter. And basically all they've done, I'm not going to move this right now because it's full. It's not just put together like a display. I was diving it earlier last week. So it's got scrubber in it and everything ready to go. How much for the weight plates? Matt, for you, about $75. That'll do it. Nodder. How many people need to be in the class to keep the cost down? That's a great question. And we're moving towards a new thing with our higher level classes, the classes where there might be less demand for them, like the instructor course or technical classes. And there's actually no minimum for the rebreather course. You can take it as a single and not be penalized. We've got it priced that way. However, you can bring an additional person, and for every additional person in the class, you get $100 off. They get $100 off. So, and then if there's 3 people, then everybody's going to get $200 off. That type of thing. And it caps at 200. You can't make the course free just by having 100 people. Let's see. What does it take to get certified on a rebreather? 5 fun-filled days and a kind of sort of long manual. You got to read it and answer the knowledge reviews, and then you take an exam. So the 5 days, first day is going to be building up the rebreather, and if you're taking the Tech 40 course, then you're going to be also going over some dive planning software. You're going to build the rebreather, tear it down, talk about how to clean it, sterilize it, how to take care of the unit. And then day 2 is going to be pool, mostly pool, and then after that you've got some dives to do, some ocean dives.
And at the end of day 5, you'll be certified to 130 feet with 10 minutes of deco anywhere in the world. Hollis logo, orange, awesome. Ah, nice. Is it difficult to fly with rebreathers? It can be. I haven't had any problems flying with rebreathers. It just depends on how much gear you want to bring and how much yours weighs. So I'm on my second rebreather now. I teach 2 rebreathers. The other one that I teach is Poseidon. I traveled with that, and it fits nicely. You can get most of the rebreather if you break it down into a carry-on, and you can definitely get the really important parts into a carry-on. So that's a great way to go. For this thing, this is tough as nails. I would just check it, and it'd be fine. It's so obviously you've got a BCD. And this is, it looks kind of wide right now. This is about the size of a normal BCD, like a normal single tank BCD. And it doesn't take up much space. This is actually, you could fold this if you wanted to, although there's this rigid back plate right here. So I would probably just make it thin like that. So you could do that. These canisters are just connected by bungees and bolt snaps. So they come off, they're relatively small, and they're easy to pack. So all this thing breaks down. You can get this into one carry-on, no problem. Most places are going to have the cylinders that you need, and you can pretty much use whatever you want. Like a small cylinder at the bottom filled with oxygen. You can use any rebreather cylinder. 2 liters work best. So if you've got your choice between 2 dive shops and one has 3 liters only and one has 2 and 3, it might be nice to get a 2 liter just because it fits a little bit better. But at the same time, I'm not all that worried about it. If you're diving less than 130 feet or less, then you could use just a single 40 as your diluent and your bailout gas. You can add more on as you need to for the deeper you go. It makes it super duper easy. Let's see. How much does it weigh? How much does it weigh? Let's find out. I've got it pulled up right here. It doesn't weigh very much. It's pretty small. If you've ever, it weighs a lot less than any other rebreather I've used or seen, which is not saying a lot. Let's see. So weight complete with BOV, harness and wing, minus the tank and Zorb. So let's, I don't want to say a few pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds of Zorb in there, something like that. And then a tank's probably 8 pounds. But without all that stuff, it's 21 pounds, so very light. It's not going to... You could even fly with your O2 cylinder if you wanted to and still stay under the 50-pound limit. That wouldn't be a problem. Let's see. Do you travel with a small dill O2 bottles to empty? I have. I don't regularly. I would probably try to go to a dive shop that had the cylinders for it, and that's becoming more and more common. How would this work on dive charters? That's great. So most people typically will spend about, let's say, 3 hours on a rebreather. On the Poseidon that I taught before, they rate the scrubber capacity at 4 hours. 3 hours, sorry. KISS is a little bit more liberal with what they say the scrubber can do. And it's more accurate. The other one is 3 hours is really conservative. They can do a lot more than that. They say, like 4 or 5 hours on this thing. So me personally, I'm happy with getting 3 hours underwater in a day. I feel like that's enough for me. So if you go on one of our boats, you do 2 80-minute dives, that's going to be, what is that? Just under 3 hours, right? You're maybe getting shorted 20 minutes, but that's nice. We give you a sandwich too. So basically you just go down, dive, come back up, take it off, put it on again, dive, come back up, take it off. So that's how that would work with a dive charter. Let's see. All right. See, it looks like I might be out of questions. That means it's time for more videos. Hey, Jason. This is a great question, Jason. Fantastic. So how's the work of breathing on this unit? How is it in the head down position? Good question. So you can't really tell, but if you can't see that. Anyway, the lower part of the unit, I've got a picture right here. We can make this easier. Haha. All right. So if you're looking on here, on this image I've got up, this part right here that's attached to the bottom of the scrubbers and kind of runs behind, it's the same color as the BCD, so you can't really tell the difference between the BCD and the counterlung there. But that's the counterlung. So what that is when you exhale on a rebreather, the scrubber canister or canisters are rigid, and you need to have a place for that air to go that can expand so it can actually move through the loop. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to inflate these. You get it. But anyway, because that's so low on your waist where you want all your lift, it makes it a whole lot more comfortable in the water. It's kind of like Sidemount, and it puts you in that good horizontal trim because it's got your lift like right here, and it's not, pulling your legs up or pulling your head up. On a normal rebreather, your counterlungs are typically over the shoulder, on the chest, or back mounted. And when you have those, it tends to throw you out of trim, and you end up having to throw a bunch of weight up on your upper body so that you can get it weighed down. I end up with almost all my weight on my shoulders to get my Poseidon down. But with this thing, I stay in good horizontal trim. Now, that does come with a drawback. I'm not going to lie to you. So if you're at the surface and you're head up and you're trying to breathe out of this thing, you're going to find that inhaling is the easiest inhale you've ever done in your life because it's pushing the air up into your mouth and into your lungs. But then when you go to exhale, it's difficult. You do have to push to get the air into the counter lungs, and that's only when you're at the surface. You can also be on the BOV or whatever, or just just breathing. I almost said snorkel. We don't need any snorkels around here. But anyway, and you asked about having your head down, so it would be the opposite. If you put your head down, you would have a difficult time inhaling and a really easy time exhaling. So that's just the hydrodynamics. But when you're diving in proper trim, the work of breathing is fantastic. It's as good as anything I've used. Really good. All right. Ever use a full face mask with this rebreather? Impossible Futures. I know, I've gone diving with you, and I'm sorry that I can't remember your name right now. You could use a full face mask with this rebreather. It would get difficult fast because when you put this thing on, you got to bring the loop over your head, depending on how you're doing it. If you've got a full face mask attached to it, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Rebreathers with full face masks are something that the dive industry is still kind of working on. It can be done, but it's not really the best option. It just kind of depends. If you're super frightened of oxygen toxicity and you think that you're going to convulse, well, first you might want to address the PO2s that you're diving at, but you could also do a full face mask, because if you convulse and nothing comes out of your mouth, then there's really nothing that's going to happen to you. Stop talking about scary stuff. All right, how do I know which rebreather's best for me? There's really no best rebreather. There's some really good ones. The Revo's a good option. Those are really nice. I like those a lot because they have a lot of different options. But for me, it's the Sidewinder. I'm the type of guy where I am going to really enjoy being in Sidemount in open water. It's nice when you're scootering. It's streamlined. It's comfortable, balanced. It's really easy to use. I like the mechanical CCR aspect of it. And I like to go cave diving now and then. So when I go to Florida, this is definitely going to be my rig, and I'm going to have a great time down there in that. Now, you may not want to do a Sidemount rebreather or anything like that, so you could go with another KISS rebreather like the Spirit LTE, which is essentially the same rebreather except for everything's mounted on your back. We're not teaching that yet, but we may teach it in the future, which is cool. You go with Poseidon if you want something extremely automated that's going to take care of everything for you. There's all kinds of rebreathers on the market, but one thing that's really important is to make sure that either somewhere local to you or the dive shop that you're going to use primarily has parts for this thing. Now, you can order stuff like KISS will send you parts anywhere in the world if you need this stuff. But if you're coming out here a lot, then it makes sense to dive a KISS rebreather because we're going to have parts in stock. Poseidon stuff, we'll have parts in stock. I wouldn't necessarily come out here with a Sentinel
and think, oh, these guys are going to have parts for me. It's not going to happen. Nobody's got parts out of here. Nobody in Hawaii sells, VR stuff. They don't sell Sentinels. Let's see. What's up with the stories of experienced divers dying on rebreathers? That's very true. There have been deaths on rebreathers. My favorite thing to quote when somebody talks about that is that there has not been a single rebreather death where the checklist was found in the diver's belongings or on the diver's person. So rebreathers are you have to be methodical when you're building these things up, and you have to check a certain amount of things, and you can't trust your memory to it. You have to have a checklist, which I have right here. On my checklist, it's got everything I need. It's laminated. I have a smaller one that sits in a pouch on my rebreather, and I've got that on me at all times. And whenever I'm building this thing up, I do go step by step every single time. You have to. And if you do that, it's going to, everything, I can't say everything's going to be fine, but you have a way better chance. I mean, you can always have something break on you when you're diving. You could have a yoke O-ring blow on you in the middle of a dive, and that doesn't happen very often, very rarely, in fact. But I mean, let's say, 6 or 7 years ago, Excess Scuba had these high-pressure hoses, those braided ones that look so cool, the ones that were so thin, they almost look like a toy, a little spaghetti noodle. Those things started blowing up on people in the middle of dives, and I actually know someone that works at Jack's that had that happen to him, and basically you lose all your gas very rapidly. So that kind of thing, I mean, you got problems with every unit, but with the rebreather, as long as you're doing your checks and everything, it's not going to be a problem. You just have to make sure that you're diligent about your checks, and that you're always, willing to quit a dive if something's not right. It's when in doubt, bail out. The only way that people get killed diving is whenever they violate known safe standard practices. It's like clockwork every time you look at the diving death, and you'd be like, oh, this is a thing that we knew we weren't supposed to do, and they did it, and that's how they died. Let's see. Is it true that you can approach marine life closer without frightening them with a CCR? Yes, definitely, but not everything. Certain things will let you get crazy close to them, especially if you find a spot where you've got fish that don't normally see a lot of divers. They won't know what to do with you. Like I remember I was doing a dive out in Kailua Bay and found this coral island type of thing, and there were a bunch of pennant butterflies hanging out around it, and those guys acted like they'd never seen a diver before. They just came right up in my face, and I actually do have a pretty good example of that. I think I'm pretty sure I had this brought up. Let's see. So this is actually on Kauai. It's taken during my normoxic trimix class. So this dive was to a maximum depth of 180 feet, I believe. So I'll just let that play for a minute because it doesn't stop being impressive. Okay, great. I guess I won't let it play for a minute. Fix that real quick. Actually, you know what? This might be even better. So you can see we've got lots of pennants, different butterfly fish. Got a lot of ta'ape down there, millet seeds, pyramids. You can see it just kind of depends on the marine life, but you can see we can get really close to this stuff and they're not disturbed at all. This lobster doesn't even care. Oh, sorry. My bad. Start it over.
There's a few fish. Yeah, if you guys haven't dove Kauai, I mean, oh, look at all the black coral down there. I didn't even notice that. Definitely don't go there. The Big Island's way better. Come dive with Jack's Diving Locker. Just kidding. There's a lot of cool stuff on Kauai, too. So I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me that these fish are pretty cool with the Rebreather. All right. Let's see. And I've got another one I can bring up. Very loud. Which site is that? I'd love to tell you. It doesn't have a name. It is, I tell you, it's near a dive site on Kauai called Sherwood Forest. But this is, so Sherwood Forest would be big inside on that dive site. It's like 100 and that particular video is probably at 160 feet. So kind of deep. But anyway, let me open up this other video. So this is the same trip, just a little bit more context. It's kind of a video I made documenting my Normoxic class, which was really cool. There's music. There's no sound normally, but I'm going to get flagged by YouTube if I play the music. So right here, I'm setting up my rebreather. You can't see it, but I've got my checklist right there. Just outside of the frame is my instructor making sure that I've got my checklist right there. There's a bunch of really sloppy rigged tanks and a super janky fill station, outdoor fill station. And now everything's finally cleaned up and we've got gear stowed and prepared. It's my instructor, Joe Deturi. And I like this this dive that we did here. It's particularly impressive with the fish, and you're going to see tons and tons of black coral, uncollected black coral, which is really fantastic to see. I didn't know there was this much left of it in the whole world. So, lots of fish, and that is all black coral right there. That's me. This is my Poseidon. Still use it. Although I do tend to use my Sidewinder a lot more these days. Let's see. Would you need to worry about exotic gases? So it depends on the depth you want to do. If you want to dive to 130 feet, then all you need is air and oxygen. Super easy. If you want to dive beyond that, then you still have to deal with the narcotic effects of nitrogen, ruining your dive and making it to where you can't remember it at all. I'll have to skip this. So you do need some Trimix or Heliox or something like that. You need to get some helium into the loop because it's not as narcotic as nitrogen. So you'll actually be clear-headed when you're down there. I don't know if you guys have ever gone, down to 130 on air or something like that. You start to feel a little loopy, get a little bit of nitrogen narcosis, or actually they call it inert gas narcosis because you get it from oxygen as well as nitrogen, they've found out. Not a great question. There is theory. There's bookwork to be done, but it's not online. It's an old school. It's like, well, it's not. It's a PDF. They send you a disc and there's a PDF on it, and you read through it, do all the knowledge reviews and all that good stuff. So great question, Jason. Mechanical is what type of rebreather this is. This is a mechanical rebreather. Manual rebreather is not really a thing that's available commercially. It's not a super good idea. So a manual, while this rebreather is considered by some to be a manual rebreather, that's not what it is. It does have passive oxygen addition. So inside of the inside of the manual addition valve, there's actually a small, tiny little hole in here, and I'll wait until I can get up here. That didn't say INTD, that said Patty. Anyway, but inside of this manual addition valve, you've got a tiny little orifice. It's a tiny drilled hole that's super small, so that only a little bit of oxygen will leak through it, and it's intended to match the rate of your metabolism, your oxygen metabolism. So it should be theoretically adding oxygen to the loop at the same rate that your body's consuming the oxygen. It gets pretty close most of the time. I'd say at the bottom portion of the dive. So when I'm at the deepest portion of the dive, it's dead on most of the way. But on ascent and on descent, it does require some management. So let's say you start out with a 1.0 PO2 at the surface, meaning that it's 100% full oxygen in your loop. You wouldn't want to do that because you'd start going deep and it would spike the PO2. So you want to start off a little bit lower, make sure that you're adding air as you go down, because also the loop is going to, the water or the air inside of the loop is going to compress. So you need to add air to it, and so it kind of happens automatically all the time. But that also dilutes the PO2, so that you don't have this crazy PO2 spike and end up at something crazy like a 1.6 or even higher. When you're coming up, the reverse happens. Your PO2 is going to get pushed down. So when you're coming up, you got to make sure that you're watching your computer. I actually dive mine with a Shearwater Nerd. So I've got a screen right in front of my eye, so I always know my PO2. So if I'm coming up, I'm going to need to be letting gas out because the air in the loop is expanding, and I'm going to need to be adding oxygen to the loop periodically. So just little bits of O2 as you're adding, and it's super easy. This is just clipped to my chest, and I just press this button right here, just psh, psh, and I've got all the O2 I need. Let's see. Yeah, that's correct, Nader. You would experience some thicker gas deeper. Helium's nice for that. A lot of people say that, you can take a cheap reg and dive helium in it, and it's better than the high-end regulator, which is probably true, but helium is so expensive it would make that cost prohibitive. Let's see. What else we got? So, what else we got here? All right, so yeah, lots of different things to consider when you're diving a rebreather. If you're going deeper, you are going to need the trimix, so you have to do things a little bit differently. But diving 130 feet and shallower, it's extremely easy. A lot less work, and you can stay down almost indefinitely on this. Let's see. I want to see if I can get this video to work. There you go. Something to look at while I read. What class would you need in order to try single tank side mount? So, I'm not sure, and maybe you can clarify a little bit what you're talking about. I mean, you could just take the Sidemount class. You don't have to have any crazy prerequisites for it. You have to be an open water diver, but you could take the Sidemount class and try it out. It's a fairly brief course. It's not too bad. Let's see. If I'm a PADI Trimix diver already, how does that transfer over to CCR? Well, it transfers over very well as far as knowledge. It kind of builds upon it. So you've got all the knowledge you need when it comes to bailout gases, right? So you know everything you need, because it does help to be tech certified before you start doing a rebreather in that aspect, knowing how to manage bailout gases and make sure that you're not switching to a gas that's going to hurt you when you're at depth or something like that. So, but you do need to kind of sort of start over. So you would just go straight into PADI Tech 40 CCR, and then you'd build your way back up to Trimix. I know that can be a little bit disappointing for those of you that have done that, but that is one of the reasons why I always say that it's faster to start with Rebreather, especially with how expensive Trimix is. I get it. You know, there's people that just want to go and they want to do Tech 100 because they want to go to 330 feet and see what that's like, and that's all they wanted. They just wanted to see what's down there once, and that's or very few times. That's fine. But if you want to do it regularly, then a Rebreather is going to save you tons and tons of money over the long term. Let's say you're going and you're going to do a dive to 250 feet or something like that. You got to fill up your doubles with Trimix, or your side mount tanks with Trimix, and then you've got to have O2, you got to have 50%. You don't have to have those. One decompression gas, some kind of, maybe a travel gas, probably, because you're going to be having hypoxic gas if you're doing a 250-foot dive. You might be spending $300, $400, $500, maybe even more on a single dive for a Trimix dive on open circuit. With a Rebreather, it's going to be closer to, it's probably going to be like $50, maybe less. It just kind of depends. Usually I'm spending $25, $30 in gas on a deep dive, and that's just because I don't use it all. You do have to have bailout, but you only make that purchase once, and you just keep reusing it. And then typically what I would do is, I don't have to with this unit, but with other units, your bailout you never touch. So afterwards, you can take your bailout in a year when it's time to VIP your tank, boost the bailout gas into a diluent cylinder, and then reuse it. So you never have to actually waste it, because you're going to use that anyway. And then you just refill your bailout cylinder when you do your VIP. Let's see. Are there still liveaboards and charters that don't allow rebreathers? Yes. I know for a fact that the Kona Aggressor doesn't do rebreathers, and that's just maybe a reason not to go with them and go with Jack's Diving Locker instead. But there are a lot that are allowing rebreathers. Like if you go to Truck, which is, man, if you're going to Truck Lagoon and you're ever thinking about getting a rebreather, you should think about doing it before you go to Truck, because that trip in and of itself is going to cost about the same as a rebreather, and it's going to be made a whole lot better with a rebreather. Let's see. What's the cost on the unit and the training? So, sort of ironing out pricing a little bit, but the especially for crossovers and stuff like that. But right now, the pricing, and there's discounts for buying a unit and all that good stuff, but the rebreather's somewhere in the realm of like $6,000. If you've already got some regulators, like a DIN first stage that you can use as a bailout regulator, or a diluent first stage, then that'll save you money. So yeah, like $5-6 something like that. And then the course itself is $2,000, and then it gets cheaper the more you do that. And that includes your dives, that includes your consumables, includes the instructor. The only thing it doesn't include is the manual, and that's another $73. So you might find cheaper courses online, like if you go look at another dive shop's website, but I guarantee you by the end of it, it's going to cost about $2,000 or more, because they're going to have hidden boat fees. It's going to be like a $1,500 course and then $500 for the boat dives and stuff like that. Haha, it's Craig. All right, so what does it take for a 7 Tech 60 diver to cross over to KISS Tech 60? So I have to check with PADI on what level I can cross you over at initially. but I can tell you that the course itself is only 2 days long. It's very quick. We can get you crossed over super fast. I don't know if it'll cross you straight over at Tech 60. It may. I have to check with Patty and ask some questions because I did my initial course on the Sidewinder through IANTD, so I only know their rules so far, but I'm working on it. Nodder. I think you already know what type of dive computers I would recommend for the Rebreather, but I always love talking about my favorite company, so thank you. I recommend Shearwater. In addition to anything that Jack sells, but specifically Shearwater. These are nice, colorful screens. They're super easy to read. They are extremely easy to use. They're very functional. They have just about every feature you could think of or ask for, Bluetooth, whatever you want. Typically, if some new technology is coming out in the diving world, these guys are leading the way. But these things make it so easy. I was talking to my instructor about a guy that was trying to use a dive computer that will remain nameless for his Rebreather, and you need to calibrate your oxygen sensors before every day of diving. So this guy is going to calibrate his oxygen sensors, and it's taken him, 10 minutes to do. Whereas with my Rebreather, I just hit 2 buttons, and then I'm on calibrate, boom, and then it's done. So it's a lot faster. I have 2 computers on this Rebreather doing exactly the same thing. They're both piped in to the same 3 oxygen sensors, and I've got the nerd up here. That's right by my eye, so I can always see it. And if that's what I'm always using, every once in a while I'll just glance at my petrol to verify that that this one's reading correctly, which it should. They're coming out of the same stuff, so it's very rare that they're ever going to be different. Although it has happened. So I hardly ever use this. It's more of a backup, but I do like having it. However, if you don't want to spend that much money on a computer, because you buy the computers for this thing separately, if you don't want to spend that much money on it, then I recommend just going straight up with a nerd. That way you've got a HUD, you've got a dive computer, you've got everything built in, and you don't have to worry about it. It'll save you a little bit of money if you're the type of person that maybe think you might get lost looking at a fish and forget to check your PO2 or something like that. Should never happen. That'll get drilled out of you when you take a Rebreather course. We check your PO2 over and over again. But it's nice to have that near eye remote display in case a whale shark swims by and you get a little bit distracted. You can read that. It's really nice. Impossible futures. When can we start? Anytime. Why Patty and not SSI? So Jack's Diving Locker is a Patty shop. We don't teach SSI, and we kind of have to stick with Patty just because of the type of dive resort we are, like a 5-star instructor development center, I believe it's called, and that means we can only teach Patty stuff. Best computers on earth, yes, absolutely. What type of dive? Oh, I already answered that. Excellent. Well, wow. Time has flown by. We've got about 5 minutes left, so get the questions in while you can. I'm just going to put up some video. We were just talking about the petrol, so I have to show this video. We were making, you guys, if you dive with Jax, you probably all know Nathan Hayes. We were out in Florida doing some cave training, and we made a joke that Shearwater computers are so great that you wish you could have more, but you run out of wrist space. So then we started talking about, well, what if you start putting them on your ankles? You get ankle petrol. So this is a dive instructor checking his students' ankle petrol. The ankle petrol is the next big thing. I'm telling you, it's going to be great for the dive industry. And then while we're here, this is some cave diving that I did in Budapest. You can dive in Hungary. And believe it or not, I'm in a wetsuit. Tommy, if I had to pick one Patty tech course, what would you recommend? So it just kind of depends. If you don't think
that you're going to want to buy a rebreather or repeatedly rent a rebreather, then you probably want to just do the regular Tech 40 course. But if you're thinking that rebreather might be in your future, then you'd benefit by just going with Tech 40 CCR because it gets you there already. I recommend anything past Tech 40 be done on a rebreather. Anytime helium goes into the mix, I say go rebreather because it's going to save you so much money. Just the class, the normoxic and hypoxic trimix classes, open circuit, the gas will end up being as much as the course itself. It's incredibly expensive. All right. Hey, it's Chad. All right. Did I miss anybody's questions? If I missed it, retype it and I'll answer it real quick. But other than that, thank you everybody for coming. It was super fun talking to you. Let me know if you want to do something like this again, or if you want to stick to a certain subject. We can talk about other stuff. We can talk about scuba memes. Those exist. Let's see. All right. Well, if that's it, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. I'll give it a couple more minutes just so it can catch up. Lorianne, thank you very much. That's nice of you to say. And I actually didn't. I had someone doing all these changes for me. This is a super high budget production, and his name is Lefty. This is my assistant. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the kind words. Yeah, I think we're going to be doing a lot more. I don't know how many of them will be live. The seminars we're going to be putting out. I hope I'm not saying anything I'm not supposed to. Don't get mad at me, JDL employees, if I blow the lid off something. But I think we're going to be doing short videos coming out from different instructors on different subjects. So look for that in the future, and hopefully we'll do a few more of these live seminars. I don't know how comfortable everybody is with the idea of doing it from their home or whatnot. You guys can come to my house. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming, and hopefully once all this crud is over, you guys can come out and we can go diving. Maybe try out some rebreathers, try out some Sidemount stuff. If you have any questions that we didn't get to, maybe you just don't feel like typing in the chat bar, feel free to email me at Zach, Z-A-C-H, @jacksdivinglocker.com. I'll type that down here in case you want to copy it. And man, for all of you that are my students that showed up, thank you very much. It's nice to see all you guys. Okay. Mahalo, aloha, and take it easy.